Once there lived a heart that lived in a boy that lived in a cottage in a small clearing where the woods meets the sea. This boy was lucky enough to have met a girl with whom they both wished to share a part of their lives with each other. They signed with love, and each put a piece of their hearts on the line. They were both rational, logical thinkers, and they both agreed that half of their hearts would suffice. It would be foolish to forfeit the entirety of both their hearts, as, after all, a heart can heal. They spent much of their life in the sun, being alive with each other and the ever-changing tides. Until one day, the girl found something amongst the waves, something that called to her. He tried, but the boy could not see it. She had found a way to go, a path to take, and she had to leave. Leave for somewhere the boy could not follow. He begged and pleaded, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't find a way to join her. So he kneeled on the shore and just watched. He watched her sail away. The tragedy in this is that the boy did not understand. Where she was headed, he saw nothing. But she saw everything. He spent the rest of the season in his cottage, like the trees around him, shedding many leaves. He would stare out of the window out to sea, waiting for a sparkle of hope to ascend from the horizon. Waiting. But what he was hoping to find, a sign of the girl, where she was bound a journey of his own, he did not know. He waited and tried to figure out how to live with half a heart. But what he didn't realize is that he was already doing it. When you do it all the time, it's easy to forget that you're alive. During this time came the first storm of autumn, where the sky washes away the last of the leaves that still hold on. This storm was fierce, and the boy watched the stony waves in fear, not for himself, but for the girl on her voyage. He wished to the spectrum of greys above for her safety, but he would never know. He did not know how much time had passed, as time beneath the murky sky can feel like a perpetual night. Regardless, he took his first steps out of the cottage. He turned from the sea of which he would gaze and ventured into the woods behind him, for he had nothing left to lose. Haunting, twisting figures surrounded him, but deeper still he walked. The deeper he tread, the more he realized that these figures were merely shadows. Shadows cast by the returning sun above. He felt some warmth, mild but comforting. He noticed that with the sun came little speckles of green reviving from the branches, like art from a pencil. And he found love for the living again, as, after all, a heart can heal. He embraced a nearby beach, not grand and all-towering like its peers, but slender, the perfect diameter for his love. He pressed his cheek against the warm, wavy bark and listened with his heart to the sound of her breath. And at last, he found connection, but more so, he found peace. In that moment, cheek still resting on the tree, he whispered, "I give you my heart." And he gave his heart to the woods. A heart is a heavy burden, so perhaps by sharing the load together, they can find a way to carry it. Weightlessly, he gently glided through the woods and freely followed where the trees led, weaving in and out of trunks, under and over branches, like a squirrel, calling the woods his home. Soon, the boy came to a tunnel of steep, earthy and chalk-laid banks beneath a canopy of short rowans, mighty beeches and reaching oaks. The leafy vortex seemed to wind on forever. He did not know where it led, but enchanted by its mystery, he was compelled to go on. Not to discover the destination, that wasn't important to him, but merely for the journey. As he ventured on, he noticed what could almost be described as, well, a living room in the woods. He peered in from inside the tunnel like a nosy neighbour. The canopy was much lighter here, with only the rows of silver birch holding up the ceiling of twigs above the soft carpet of luscious grasses and cushions of ferns. At the far end, an archway in the wall of beech and rowan gave a glimpse of what lies behind. Only shadow. A rustling and a gust of wind rushed before him, and as he turned his gaze back inside the tunnel, time slowed down. A roe stag leaping from bank to bank. It was almost stationary in mid-air. There was time to admire the white speckles along its back, its long, elegant legs reaching out like the oaks above, its mighty antlers like a modest crown, short like saplings, but no less commanding. He could even see the look in the deer's eye, a golden eclipse, a look of determination straight ahead, hardly noticing the boy was there. As its hoofs gracefully touched the bank, time returned to normal, and the deer shot off into the room. The boy tried to follow it with his gaze, but his eyes couldn't keep up until he noticed in the archway. There he stood. The regal stag peered over his shoulder at the boy, and the boy stared back, like a conversation through sight alone. Then the deer turned his head away and headed through the archway into a world the boy thought he would never know. Lost in a daze, the boy stumbled down the cylindrical chaos of leaves as if he were rambling in a magical wonderland. Everything around him started to seem so much more alive. The leaves and the branches gently swayed in the light, but otherwise everything was still. Yet he could feel the life around him. Though he could not see them, he could feel the presence and the energy of the hundreds of worms and insects wriggling and scurrying beneath his feet and in the once vibrant leaves decaying on the floor, being reclaimed for the earth. Even the cumbersome trunks of the bulkiest oaks, sturdy and immovable, teemed with activity like a mass of life. Soulful, energetic, yet motionless. Could this still be described as a daze? Perhaps a revelation. An experience. In his newfound state of connection, he saw a small light ahead of him, a wisp, if you will, weightlessly resting on the heavy root of a grand beech. Assuming he must be hallucinating, the boy stopped, rubbed and readjusted his eyes. Yet still the light remained. This was no illusion, but very real. Silently, the wisp called to him, much like the stag from before, and uncontrollably yet consensually, he approached. As with perception, with every step the boy took, the light grew in size and clarity until the outline of a figure formed inside, revealing itself to be what looked like but couldn't possibly be. A fairy. The boy stood, paralyzed with disbelief, yet still the light continued to grow, engulfing him and all in his periphery. When he saw the light begin to dim from the other side of his lids, the boy opened his eyes. He saw the light dissolve, not fade out, but disperse like startled birds from the canopy, leaving only a girl. Radiant and beautiful, she sat upon the root where the wisp once perched, in a white gown almost floating around her figure. The boy knew this was no ordinary girl. Even with the light gone, she continued to glow. "Thank you," she said in a bright, weightless voice, far more so than this reader's, that landed perfectly in the boy's ears. "Thank you for giving me your heart. I will treasure it." His face, still expressionless from shock, let a single tear roll gently down his cheek, glistening like a gem from a beam of light that found its way through the canopy. "But it is not mine to keep. A human heart is far too heavy for me to carry alone." As it turns out, woodland fairies that each reside in a tree of their own and grow with it all share a single heart. The heart of the woods. "Although I can feel it has been broken," she said, "it is still just as precious as were it new. And it is yours. But I will gladly share it with you." Suddenly the boy dropped to his knees, as if the weight on the other side of the scales had just been lifted, and a trickling stream of relief was freed from his eyes. The girl took the boy's hand and lifted him back to his feet, not with the strength of her frame, but with the strength of her love. "But you must stay here." It seemed the boy had a choice: to continue wandering with the heart he had found the strength to hold, or to stay with her, to share his heart with the woods. For him, it was an easy choice. While he was proud of his newfound might to hold his own heart, no matter how heavy and how jagged, it was enough knowing that he could. For his love of the woods and of her far outweighed that of his pride. But what if their love faded, you might ask? He had seen how easily it could sail away. Well, then so be it, he thought. He had done it before, and he knew he would be okay, as, after all, a heart can heal.